Bienvenidos a un episodio más de Reinventándonos Podcast, un podcast donde invitamos a personas que se están enfrentando a un cambio organizacional o bien nos están dando herramientas para reinventarnos hoy para el futuro. Bueno, hoy tenemos una invitada internacional, bueno, internacional desde Bilbao, pero siempre Bilbao es la capital del mundo para los que no sepan. Y entonces no está ahora mismo en Miami. Y nada, pues es una trotamundos. Estaremos hablando un poquito de todo, de blockchain, de Web3. Estaremos hablando también de emprendimientos que tienen por ahí. Muy interesante su perfil, ya se enterarán. Y ya saben que siempre encuentran el perfil completo y el link a su biografía en la descripción del episodio. Y bueno, este episodio será en inglés. So, welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Me too. Well, as a tradition that we have here in our podcast, we're going to start with a checking round. So, as you are a global trotter, you are always around the world. So, what do you value most, or what do you like about a city?
About a city, that's a really good question. So every time that I go to a place, I try to find very similar, very similar things to the things that I need every day. So say like a co-working space or a space where I can like chill and have some time for myself to arrange my workload. Then I like to have a place where I can do sports or go for runs. And then a place to socialize. So either if that's the bars or restaurants or like a social place and maybe some art galleries as well. So yeah, just a bit of everything really.
Lovely. Well, I like also to live the city. I like cities that are so walkable cities. I love that. Many life and public spaces. So I think that's why Europe or cities like in America, like that are like European style, such as New York, Chicago, Seattle. I love those kinds of vibe, and also because you can do bar hopping and all this stuff and music
Yes.
around. So I love that, and big public spaces, big parks. I love that kind of city.
And you can walk around as well, because what you get like in most American cities is that you cannot really, I mean, they're not made with the citizen in mind. And you see that, for example, in Europe, they're trying to foster this like 15-minute city where you can, from one place to the other, you get like most of your needs covered, right? So to me, it's crazy that like you need to take the car for almost like everything in the US. Is something I'm not used to, and I feel a bit limited because without like a vehicle, then like everything becomes a bit more challenging.
Yeah, that's a big challenge nowadays in the world, and the cities centered in vehicles and in cars instead of people. But well, it's a great debate that probably, as I said, I like to say that until you live in a city like that, you start to value that other things can happen. But well, that will be another episode. So I think we have already like some urbanism episodes. Well, for now we're gonna focus on your expertise, and I love it how diverse it is, how richful it is, and you have many backgrounds, and you are kind of the Polymath profile, Polymath, background that we like in this podcast. So you study communication, then you do a master in social sciences, and then you also have work in urbanism, or urbanism, and now you are a PR of strategy and reputation management of all kind of industries, and you also love and you also work in terms of fintech, Web3 that we're gonna see around this episode. But how can you explain? I would love to hear you how your expertise grow, or how your evolution, or how is everything connected. What was your experience during all this journey? I think it's something worth spreading so our audience can hear from you.
Well, thank you for the praise. Well, I don't give myself too much credit really, but I think that it's important to have a bit of diverse background in the way that you think that you can become anything you want, right? And so like growing up, I was thinking like, damn, I would like to study this and to study that and to do, you know, because like there's many exciting careers and there's many ways you can live your life. So having interests in different careers than your own is always something that I've had, and I really value people who are curious, not only about like their industry but also about others, because you never know you know, like where life will what direction life will throw you in. So in a way, the good thing about communications is that it's 360, so you can basically apply your communication skills and expertise to any industry that you might have an interest in. And in my case, I did study journalism, public relations, and mass media science, and that was at the University of Vienna. So I did start in Navarra, Universidad de Navarra. I really liked it, but I thought it was a bit limited in terms of international scope. So that's when I decided to basically transfer to University of Vienna, and that's where like my whole international career, if you like, had taken off. I met a lot of people from Austria, Germany, Switzerland, also all kinds of nationalities. And I got to start working as a saleswoman at Hugo Boss. So this clothing store that many people know. And that was working at a little UN. So many people were from all different backgrounds, like all different countries. And that was one of the most enriching experiences that I've had. And then I specialized in political economy of emerging countries, and that was something really exciting, because I was always striving to work in an international ambience and atmosphere, and to me it was very exciting to know like that there's many different people working with you. They have many different points of view. And that teaches you so much, from like how they were living, what sort of political situation they've been in, and like how can you contribute to each other, how can you help like each other in different productive ways, like when you're at work. So in a very, I'd say, rather mysterious way, I got into PR. I was working in digital marketing before as one of my first experiences when I graduated from my master's, and then I decided to switch to basically PR, and public relations is something really interesting, because I got to focus from the mass media science point of view. I got to see how you can influence it as a company, or what sort of weight do you have, or what sort of not only obligations but rather responsibilities and duties you have towards society as well. So like an enterprise like functions not separate from society but with it, right? And thanks to it as well. So I got to see how to communicate the needs of the company, how to communicate like what was important for the company and what the company was doing, and so that opened like a wide variety of options for me to say work. I focused on first like financial companies, then including asset managers, banks, etc. And the expertise of the company that I was working in was reputation management, and I got to see how important that was and how important it still is and will be relevant in the future decades to come. Especially now that the citizen has more access to basic information. And so after that, I saw that fintech was an emerging tool, and financial technology is something that is basically opening so many possibilities to emerging economies, as I studied during university. And there's this giant leap between people who have not had access because they didn't have the financial resources to either like have a computer or like a phone, etc. And then slowly but surely they got access to the internet, they got access to the phone. So it went from, say, in some emerging markets, from 0 to 100 in just a minute. Wow. So that adoption is really exciting. So to me, fintech was very interesting, and not only fintech, but also the natural step of it, like from fintech to Web3 to financial technologies was the natural course to take. So I got to specialize in Web3 this past year. I am still specializing and I'm still learning. So
Lovely. And well, I think that human beings like you or as me or our colleagues that always like are this kind of term of lifelong learners, they're always will develop and see when the industry goes or even help the industry evolve. So at the end it's something good, and it's like a virtuous loop of every of learning, of applying, and learning through the process. And one of the things that, well, you already mentioned, but if you could explain, I mean, the term Web3, and if you can say, if you can explain us what it's about, how many limits it has, or is something that is coming and will be expanding and will be something that to the next years will be more mainstream or will be in every place. So if you can tell us a little bit about this, please.
Absolutely, yeah. So like I'm gonna put it in a really simple way because it's a bit diffuse and it's very diverse, and people when they talk about like say metaverse, blockchain, AI, and all this, like they get a bit confused and they're like, okay, so this is something I don't understand, so we'll put it in a box of, like I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. But like so the perspective is the following. So you have Web 1, which is read, you have Web 2 that is read and write, and then you'd have Web3, which is the Internet of Value, or read, write, and own. So in Web 1, there used to be there used to be access to the internet where you could consume information. In Web 2, you could participate in that environment. You could basically start writing blogs. You could start writing in different social networks, etc. And then you'd see that like most of the main actors started basically centralizing the information, right? So say Google, Facebook, Yahoo, you have like the biggest players who started seeing that, hold on a second, like you get to basically own all that data, you can aggregate it, you can anonymize it, and then you can sell it off like to either like marketing, advertising companies, or like any actor that might want to buy them, right? And this is all for advertising purposes. So you would not really technically own your data. When it's often said that like when you're not paying for the product, you are the product, and this becomes the case in basically all like Web 2 interactions, right? Like you are not paying for Facebook, but like how are you paying? You're paying basically with your data when you're like signing. Yeah, I have read the agreements, terms and agreements, so like you just accept them and then like you move on because you just really want to use the platform. So in terms of adoption is something really interesting. And in terms of limitations, as you were saying, like focusing first on Web3 very changing. It's like it is something that is going to be completely groundbreaking because it basically gives the power back to the people. So it's basically saying like you own your data, you can do whatever you want with it, and there's no centralized actor. So this is the revolutionary backbone of it, that you get to produce and you get to profit from that as well. And blockchain technology, so distributed ledger technology, helps with that in the way that like it's not centralized, but it's like the information and the transactions is peer-to-peer and is distributed along like a very big network of computers. So like the transactions are validated and you don't need a central actor. Might that be for financial transactions, might that be through smart contracts, like to basically own a piece of art or own a piece of an NFT, a non-fungible token. So you don't really need a central actor that is going to either profit or like charge you a fee to use a service. So that is the most groundbreaking thing.
Totally, and makes me think in a lot of stuff. There's like philosophical, and even there's this famous. I always kind of or get wrong the pronunciation of the Woo Young Han, this actor of Noctins, or and I think something is groundbreaking also, not only in governments but also in people. We tend to be physical. We tend to we like things that we can grab, that we can, okay, this is mine.
Tangible. Yeah. So
like,
like you get something and you have it in your hand. Yes.
Yeah. And for that, it could be a little bit counterintuitive. But at the end, and have many or listen sometimes to clients or some philosophical some years ago, that people will say, well, at the end, what is the money? What is something that doesn't exist, and we give it value to that paper. But now is something, that paper that is in the internet, but at the end is some value to someone. So, but I think this is something revolutionary. But at the end, as we say in innovation, when we are not familiar to something, at the end is more harder to take it on, because as the COVID, we were not used to, even there were pandemics through our history, but we are as a generation that hasn't lived a pandemic, so we don't take it seriously, because we are not used to how a pandemic could kill us nowadays, but it happened. And
I think the pandemic was good and bad, no? Like it also, I mean, to me, it was I mean, unprecedented, like to see so many people like helping each other, also like stepping up to their game, really. And then, I mean, it hasn't been my case, but like having your kids and being at home, like locked up in different countries where like the policies were very, very strict, and you had to be educating your children, basically homeschooling them, then working. I think that must have been like a huge factor of like generating stress in families and everything. And I find that like people took or like found the strength where they didn't know they had it, and then they stepped up their game, and then now it made them more resilient, and some others, like maybe in some other cases it hasn't really worked out. But I have discovered that like people saw that technology has such a strong role, it plays such a strong role, and it's basically there to help humanity as well. And so a friend of mine, he is working on a startup, on a really interesting startup that basically wants to do education-driven, interest-driven education. And interest-driven education is something super interesting, especially because you're using terms like, the metaverse, and he's doing things in the metaverse in order to educate children when the parents like are not able to, and then they have to be at home. And I think that like if technology is used the right way, it can provide a platform for kids to learn, for us to collaborate, etc., etc. So everything is mostly done digitally nowadays. So we're starting to get a bit of a better grasp of how tech can be used for good and for cooperation.
Yeah, I think it opens a whole world, and this connects me to the blockchain world, probably, and I think it's the first episode that we talk about directly about this topic. And it's also doing some revolution to the to the basic bank, and so I don't know, probably this like a Web3 to many people is they don't trust that much to the blockchain, or at least the traditional people say, I don't know, where is something more bigger that is supporting the blockchain, or is something that I can go to the bank directly myself and do like so many things that like. But at the end, it also help other industries to do or to collaborate, or even we have all listened to this day or to these decentralized autonomous organizations and everything that like that. You think is something or what it needs in order that blockchain could explode, or say or people sometimes they say they're not stable as is a bank, or if you think the contrary and you say, okay, blockchain can save the world, I think blockchain we can give a chance to the blockchain.
Right. So in terms of like blockchain technology, right? Like what is blockchain? Blockchain technology is revolutionary because it provides secure, decentralized, and like transparent ways like to record and verify these transactions without the need of a central authority. That is what is like groundbreaking about it. And the interesting part here is that basically, if you're basing a startup that might be like a neobank, like a challenger bank, based on this, you're providing people the access to secure transactions, reliable, fast as well. Because in terms of like the adoption of different technologies, people adopt technologies when they have a need to, right? So like say either in some emerging markets where they have like a really strict government and they have like a really high inflation rate, they cannot afford like groceries anymore, etc. This is like a workaround. This is a workaround way around it, really. Take Argentina as an example. You have a country that has like a 150% of inflation. Like the situation is really bad economically, and is one of the main countries with workers paid in crypto. And crypto is a way for them to escape poverty, like to have access to the global economy, to be able to afford to provide for their families. And I think that like if the world and the different countries are basically impoverishing their citizens, the citizens that are more than able to look for alternatives, right? So blockchain technology is a tool at the end of the day, like just like any other technology tools that like wants to provide a solution. And as a tool, it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And one of the most interesting things is that the early adoption of all technologies has always done by criminals. That doesn't mean that crypto is for criminals, blockchain technology is going to be used for evil, etc., etc. But it's a workaround, and it's a way to escape situations that like people nowadays are suffering in terms of economy, for example. And what I see is that, yes, the early adopters of most technologies have been criminals, but that doesn't mean that like then, for example, during the dot-com bubble, the people said like, oh, smartphones and, like all this internet, what is this? This is just like for criminals to scam people and to, be able to have like a short to like fame or fortune, but really it became something solid. And after like the whole hype went away, then you would have companies that were basically trying to help, trying to develop tools that were good for society. And now we have Google, we have Facebook, we have really big employers, like they're all in Silicon Valley. So yeah, as a way to explain it.
Yeah, at the end, and we see like countries such as El Salvador that adopt this, and at the beginning, people say, "Oh, this guy is crazy," and well, with this guy at the end, many people, without entering into politics, many people kind of put some cross on him and say, "Hey, you are doing crazy things." But now Salvador has changed for good, and it was a pretty bad situation before, and and I had help, as you say, also with Argentina, that they have more than 10 years under crisis and poor people, and it connects me to I know a topic that you love, it is the DeFi or decentralized finances. And when I was talking to you before, well, so some days before, I used to live in Spain too. And one of the things that got my attention in those days was these autonomous boxes that was around. You have the Caja Navarra. And for me, it was something like, in Mexico, this doesn't exist. But at the end, with the crisis was 2008, then 2012 in Spain, that float disappear, and the big banks disappear. The big banks eat these boxes, And at the end, the people the physical people, common people, doesn't have access to credit and doesn't have only the big actors or even those the small and medium business is a pain for them to ask for credit. So I don't know if these decentralized finances could help these people, could help the common people as was before. What do you think about, and if there's something, well, it's a big question, but there is some new rules or new laws that are out there, like, in order that this could be real, because I can suspect, and more, that could be some interest in there.
Well, interesting you mentioned this, because yes and no. So yes, DeFi has the potential to help, and no, in the terms of, like, it has to be regulated, it has to be, like, the play field needs to be leveled, because as of now I see that, like, at a world economy order level, so to say, like, the regulation changes, right? So, like, companies are trying to shy away that regulation and go to countries where, like, the regulatory regimes are a bit more lax. If they're trying to develop like X and Y technology, right? And so innovation doesn't happen on the terms of the entrepreneur, it happens on the terms of the country that he or she is operating in. And so there was this the founder of Chainlink, a really big crypto company, that basically said a really interesting thing. Sergey Nazarov, he was mentioning that cryptography, which is the system that blockchain technology is based in, emerges as a trust crisis of society. So what we have, as you rightly mentioned, is like 2008 crisis, financial crisis, like, again and again, have had, like, very similar mistakes, which have been, like, rooted in the greed of people controlling the banking industry, just helping out their friends, like, not really looking at a macro level, but playing with the money of a lot of people who have been trying to participate in the economy, or trying to participate in either, like, any investments. And to me, it is very interesting that DeFi, decentralized finance, has a potential to give that access, like, to people who have not been able to participate on a global economy that much, or have not had the control over, like, their own finances. So in my opinion, yes, but it has to be regulated, and regulation keeps changing. So when we're talking about the United States, for example, they do a very specific thing, that is regulation by enforcement. So they're not blocking you, or they're not disencouraging you straight away to not use crypto, not work, like, with different payments companies, but rather they're making it really hard. So, like, say, for example, if you're working with a certain system, then you cannot access X, Y, and Z. Like, you cannot access either a bank, or you're scoring, like, lower in X, like, credit analysis, for example. And in Argentina, like, seeing that, like, there's a mass adoption of cryptocurrency, and people are getting paid in crypto. When Argentina was asking for a loan from the International Monetary Fund, the US said, like, yes, but you need to discourage the adoption of crypto in your country, because that would mean you need to have more control over, like, who is issuing a currency, how is that currency issued, and stuff. And so this is the thing that is starting to escape control. So, like, you have the SEC, the Securities and Exchanges Commission, coming really hard after crypto companies, and as a result, you have all these crypto companies basically moving to Southeast Asia, to different regimes where they're trying to operate, they're trying to set up their businesses, and invest in research and development, and invest in innovation. So, as a matter of fact, what ends up happening is that you have many companies that are going to try to escape the regulation, and are going to start becoming prosperous in different countries than your own.
Yeah, and many things that I always insist in the democratization of innovation, democratization of things, transparency of things. It shakes the traditionalist. At the end, if you have because as we can say, like a reflection or an insight that comes to my mind when you talk about this is that we have to have more awareness of this thing and more responsible for our finance and more finance literacy, and I think that's a topic too. But sometimes when we fear, or when governments and when we have a paternalist mindset and said, okay, I am the one who governs all because you are too full, or you are too crazy, you are too bad to manage your own money. It is hard to make it change. But then we have some examples such as Mohammed Yunus that prove that this mindset is wrong, with people that actually doesn't have big rents, not have money, and they actually give back the money. They move, they make people be more entrepreneurs also, and because at the end, okay, I need some money. I don't know, these are some examples, that some signals of change that could help us understand, or what you think from the next year could make it happen, or could make it worse. I don't know, what is your perspective about it?
It's interesting you mentioned that, because in my opinion, I see that there's a lack of financial education across many countries, and this is a way to control society as well. This is a way to control people. So like, if you're not aware of what inflation is, what high rates are, and you just live looking at what you're making and how can you spend it, but you have no other financial education, in the end, it becomes more difficult for you, but easier for the government to control you, or big institutions that, they say oh yeah, you can invest here, you can invest that. So at the end of the day, financial education is really important. I don't think that there's been enough being invested in this, not at schools, not at universities, and people have to take a personal interest to start learning about this. For example, say I would never have thought I would work in Web3 PR, but especially working with digital assets, not in crypto, never in my life would I have ever thought this. But it came as a surprise when I would see that there's a tie between international development and decentralized finance, or digital assets, really. And I would say that there's a bridge, and there's a lot of education to be done. So my expertise is communication, but I had to learn a lot, and I had to specialize in knowing what blockchain technology is, knowing how digital finances work, knowing how much different banks are investing in researching in how blockchain technology is, and how this is going to affect the market. So we have come to a very interesting milestone, especially recently, that is that the first Bitcoin ETF has been approved, right? And then you have big industry leaders in finance, like Larry Fink, saying that in the future, most of the things are going to be tokenized, which, by the way, being tokenized means creating value out of an asset. You can basically break it down in many different things, in many different tokens, and you can own a part of that token. So this is an economy of sharing. This is an economy of basically owning, and you can participate in it if you educate yourself. And the hard part is that no one is going to tell you this is exactly what you need to do. These are the courses that you need to learn. You need to find out, and you need to do a thing that is called do your own research, DYOR, and that helps a lot. I mean, I have done it myself, and many people ask me, how did you get into blockchain? How did you get into Web3? And I was just I did some reading, and I started listening to different podcasts from the industry. I can recommend a few good ones. And then I started doing courses on Coursera, really. Coursera is this platform where you can learn online. And I've done 4 or 5. I'm doing the last one in Web3 and leadership. And so saying how blockchain technology is adapted in different industries, and it's fascinating. You see that everything is about to change. So we are in the verge of transformation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember a course actually in Coursera with the Institute for the Future, with this girl, Jake McGonigal, that is one of my heroes. And one of the, in Foresight, you see many cross-functional things. And one thing that inspired blockchain was actually like a kind of university or study of the future. When you enter to the conglomerate of content, and you learn by yourself, and somebody qualifies you, and somebody say, okay, you actually are an expert on this, So there's the way of working of the blockchain world. The decentralized, the DAOs, autonomous organizations, also is talking about a change, a deep change in the world that I also love it talk about it. Other things that I want to take into account, there's community of blockchains, of people. I see you in some congress, how this thing helps, to all this literacy, to all this things that emerge and go more and more far.
I find conferences fascinating because some people are of the opinion that they might be like time wasters, and you can go to conferences and you need to pick the right ones as well. So like if, for example, say like you are in Spain, you might want to go to one that is agglomerating a lot of big actors, like from like at the European level, who are coming there because they want to talk about regulation, they want to talk about organizational change, they want to talk about leadership. So they're really interested in like the future of finance, the future of the digital economies. And this is something that like drives me, like to see people who are motivated because there's something behind that. And like, they believe in helping people, and they believe in that organizational change. But there's also a lot of conferences which might be smaller, which don't have like such a big reputation, and you don't see many say, for example, like known speakers or like recognized speakers. So at the end of the day, it's also a matter of like choosing your battles, picking your battles, and knowing like what is worth going to and what is not worth going to. And I know some people who got into Web3 and they had to do pro bono work. Me, myself, I've done pro bono work before. Then they had to take internships, being over 40 years old. And they were like, you know what? For me, like there's a trade-off in life for everything, right? So if you're thinking, I'm going to do an internship by like the 80s and 40s because you really have an interest in an industry. So I really respect that. I respect that, like that hard work that is being put in. I respect people who have like a consistency also in learning about something that they didn't know before. And I would encourage everyone to learn about Web3 because not only is the internet of value, but is also giving you access to understanding what is artificial intelligence, what is the metaverse, what is blockchain technology, and how this is being adopted in different industries.
Probably. Yeah, we have like a lot of homework to do. And, as I always I give classes here in Tec de Monterrey. You go to academic world, and sometimes they look at you and they say, hey, but you didn't study a master of that. And there's no many masters about it. There's many things that you learn by expertise, by, as you say, that you had your education at the end. And we are also, and this is another topic, and we already have some guests in this podcast, educational, because at the end, the education is also shaking. So we are living in a world of big changes, and mindsets at the end.
Yeah, I see that like an interesting thing is that like you need to think critically, right? Like, everyone is going to tell you A or B or C at school, at the university, the government, the rest of the people. And so there's the status quo, and then there's like what you can do about it. So I think that make your own rules. Like if you don't agree with something, then you need to question it and always like think critically about like what is coming, what sort of regulation is passing, why this is working or is not working, etc. So that's an important thing.
Yeah. One thing that I want to talk about, and we haven't done yet, is that you also are an entrepreneur. You have entrepreneurship in equestrian world, and innovation there. And well, as yourself, you are a question girl, so you have passion about this topic. And if you could talk about this entrepreneurship, and also if you can talk about like this time management, or how you do to be an entrepreneur, and also be working in a company, how do you balance it?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as I said, like having different interests is really important, like to me, and also especially because for me horses have always been like a sort of therapy. So sometimes I do even say like people go to the therapist or psychologist, and I go see the horses, and so it's there's something very healing about them. Like they bring you down. I know that like especially recently there's been a lot of research in equine assisted therapy, so many people who have some capabilities that are different from the rest, or their minorities such as Asperger or PTSD or autism, they're really helped by horses because of their heart rate, their temperature, like how they act. So I've seen incredible things like happen with horses, like with different kids, and this is something that I've always had like in the back of my head. But to me, like writing has always been a passion, and I always try to combine it with whatever I'm doing. Yeah, and after 2018, I came back from the States where I was like living. I was in Hawaii on the Big Island, and I thought about doing a sustainable clothing company. And it was going to be swimsuits, it was going to be hand towels, and like the rest of it. And so I thought, and I sat on it, and I produced some samples. I got them sent to London, where I was like living next and stuff. But then I saw how tough the market would be, so like that made me wait a little bit. And then later on during the pandemic, I came back and I started writing again. And I thought, like, hold on, so now I have the skills of knowing how to talk to the suppliers, how to get like the first samples, how to like shoot and everything. Like from a marketing perspective, I had some skills. So I was like, let's see this. We're gonna take some pictures. We're gonna see how the people react, and if like people like it, then maybe we do it. So I started producing question clothes, just like, you know, with my savings and everything. And I thought like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And people started really liking it, and they were like, "Oh, are you producing? Are you like launching a collection and that and stuff?" And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And so at some point I was like, okay, I'm just gonna bet everything and I'm gonna do it. So I did, and it's been 2 years now. Like now we have like the third collection coming out this summer. And it's a lot of work on like social media, going to competitions, doing sponsorships. That's the way we have grown and stuff as well. We give away a lot of prizes when we go to different shows, and people like the brand, and we started creating that team spirit, you know, like with the people belong to it. And the brand is called Blitz Equestrian, and our slogan is the future of riding, because we want to integrate the future of riding there as well.
Sounds actually great.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that is a big world, you know, and I love it because you take something so ancestral, such as the horse and, you know, riding horse, to some innovation in there, and, you know, you mix your passion, and well, at the end, I don't know if you can all these also, we want to put the link to your to this Blitz Equestrian, is his name.
Yeah, Blitz Equestrian, thank you.
And people can order there, and you can send to every corner of the world, or how it works.
Yeah, we're in the way of expanding right now. So like the next step would be like to start moving to the States a little bit, and like to identify what the good markets are, and especially to say that like we're an innovation company, so we're not only like an equestrian company. We're trying to develop wearable technology for riders. So this is one of the reasons why I'm here in the US, because I'm going to one of the hotspots of show jumping and polo and dressage. It's called Wellington. And we're trying to do fundraising for the equestrian wearable. We have a digital prototype. We're talking to international show jumpers. So it's a very exciting journey. And at the same time, we try to grow like the equestrian apparel brand. I think that there's a technological innovation that we're going to integrate in the company, and that includes blockchain technology as well. So that is something that is very interesting.
Well, please keep us updated, and we want to follow you and see what happens. I think will be a success, and you will show us that too, and to our audience too that follow you. And well, we have talked about many things, and it's a good time to wrap up. But I think we want to close with this question that we always ask about your image of the future that you have. What makes you feel good about the future? What is your best case scenario for the future at the professional and personal level? What you dream about it?
Well, I dream of doing more of what makes me happy, and I think that like in a big part or to a big extent is like to be more surrounded by horses, more like being able to ride, but also like to give back to society. And I think that there's a lot of potential in the projects that we're working on, so that I'm able to bridge like my skills in communication, Web3, and then the equestrian business. So at some point, like the best case scenario would be being at a really good financial position, being able to like bridge these passions together, and to spend more time with the people I love, and like trying to make an impact in society as well. That would be the best case scenario.
Lovely. I'm sure you will reach that, and you will keep evolving as you are always curious. That will help a lot. And well, and of course you are already giving back to the world, and well, probably we see you around the world, so part of the world next time.
Thank you, Luis. I think that like what you're doing is amazing, and interviewing people who have like different diverse backgrounds is very interesting, because you see that people have like more than one drive. They're not only driven by a certain passion or like a certain thing, but they also have interests in other stuff, and that makes them like be united to other people. So I think that if we can get like people to collaborate and like to be more open to future possibilities of like work and sharing hobbies, etc., like then that'd be amazing.
Yeah, thank you for your words, and to accept the invitation to this podcast. Well, I think it's a good place to say goodbye, and we keep on touch, and hope that the audience like this episode. I'm sure about it. So thank you. And as we said in Spanish, Reinventándonos podcast es dirigido por un servidor Luis Salas y producido por Polymath, una red de consultores que co-creamos organizaciones ambidiestras. Pues nada, vean reinventar algo, que estés muy bien. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias.
Laura, gracias. Hasta luego.
Hablamos pronto. Hasta luego.